Hello, welcome back. My name is Elaine and this is the Cronecast at the Rising Moon. Today I have another one of those tarot talks. I did one earlier about loving yourself, and now I'm doing one about recovering from narcissistic abuse and the codependency that often results from that. Also, I want to have a word with you about what can cause a false positive in a tarot card reading. If you've gotten a return that suggests that a person that you're very connected to or feel very connected to is coming towards you, or you go to those pick a card readings and they always have the same result, but you're not getting the result from those readings, there is a reason. Codependency functions like an addiction, unfortunately, and unfortunately it can have an impact on the results that are returned to you. One of the reasons to try and heal from codependency is it will clear your energy and free you entirely. And also because it has a slightly obsessive quality to it, that addictive quality, that fixated quality, it can start having an effect on the answers you get from your tarot card readings, particularly pick a card readings. The way we pick piles in tarot card readings on YouTube is you're essentially reading an energy signature with your third eye. That's why things will stand out to you. A part of you already knows what's in that pile. When we're in a codependent energy, which by the way, it is never an insult, it is a toxic relationship dynamic that frequently forms around formative wounds in our childhood, the love we didn't get that we needed, we try to look for into other partners. It is why empaths, who are very, very, very prone to codependency, simply because most empaths, not all, but a lot of empaths, high-level empaths who are very, very close to psychic as it is, when they start leaning into it, they can really have good revelations. A lot of that is formed within childhood, having to be hypersensitive to somebody else's moods from childhood. Empaths are often also the product of narcissistic abuse in our childhoods. Sometimes it's one parent, sometimes it's another. It does not have to be the main factor. There can be bullying, there can be other forms of abuse that cause people to never quite shut down that constant awareness of someone else's mood for emotional safety. It continues to enhance as you get older, and unfortunately empaths are particularly prone to addictive behaviors or substance abuse behaviors. Quite simply because when you can feel things very, very deeply, sometimes it's very tempting to try and make those feelings stop. So I'm talking a little bit more about codependency, its role in relationships, how to heal from it, and then also today I'm focusing a little bit on narcissistic abuse and the way to heal from that as well. It can, unfortunately, cause people to not understand that they deserve real love, reciprocal love. If you've particularly been the victim of gaslighting, you may no longer have a particularly clear view of yourself. Gaslighting is where your partner turns everything around on you. Narcissists are particularly prone to triggering people on purpose to try and elicit the response from the person that they want. Sociopaths and narcissists are very drawn to empaths because they get big emotional responses from them, and it feeds their ego. They learn how to control essentially their victim by learning their fears and applying those, basically triggering people on purpose to limit your choices, to make you think that you're very dependent on that person, to think that you're always wrong. And they give you a very skewed view of who you are. They will only ever list your faults. If something has gone wrong, you're imagining it. They will repeat scenarios to you, and it's very confusing because it doesn't match up with any of your memories. This is actually a form of abuse that is well documented. If you believe you have been involved with a narcissist or a sociopath, and I believe it is 6 to 8% of the population is sociopathic, so it is not as far out there as you might believe it to be. It is fairly common. Narcissism exists on a sliding scale to psychopathy as it is, and so unfortunately sociopathy and narcissism are very closely related. It's not all narcissists are narcissistic personality disorder. There's some people who are just deeply self-involved, but if you believe you've been involved with a narcissist where your needs basically were never ever met and they always came first, everything was always your fault, they never apologize. They never apologize, never. The only time they'll apologize, it will be perfunctory and not particularly sincere. It will be forced, it will be grudging, and it will still manage to carry blame towards you. I was actually involved with, I never quite figure out if he was a narcissist or a sociopath. There are indications that he may have been a sociopath, but he has never apologized to me for any of the wrongdoing that is fairly apparent and obvious. He's incapable of apologizing. It's one of the reasons that that I was able to recognize eventually that I was being abused, is that no matter what he did wrong, he never apologized to me, and to this day has never actually offered a sincere apology to me about anything. So that is one of the hallmarks of narcissistic abuse or sociopathic abuse. Empaths are particularly drawn to people who, when they will respond so much to all of your love and attention, and when they first acquire somebody, they can make them feel better than anyone has ever felt about themselves. You think you're being validated and approved, but then they also can be very sinister, knowing how to undermine you, undercut you, and make you feel as if you're not able to function without them. And you always feel as if you're in the wrong. So this causes all kinds of emotional damage, and it affects your relationships going forward. There is a saying, if you do not repair it, you will repeat it. Basically, if you do not heal from the last relationship you had or the one before that, or if you've been in a cycle, a codependent relationship breakup cycle, you will simply continue to have the same relationship over and over again until such time as you heal the damage. So, one of the things to be aware of is there's something called a transference relationship in codependency. And what does that mean? Because codependency functions like an addiction, quite frequently, as people are beginning to be aware that their emotional relationship with their partner is very, very damaging, you will meet somebody and your feelings, because it is like a drug, and there is a chemical that is released in our brain. So this is not woo-woo, there's a little bit of brain chemistry going on here as well. You will meet someone, feel like preternaturally connected to them, believe they are a soulmate, quite often a twin flame. And what has really occurred is that codependency, which is need-based love, has been transferred onto that new person. They are frequently very alike to the person that you are trying to leave. It is best when leaving a codependent relationship to stay single for 1 year. Treat it exactly like an addiction. And the more you have a negative reaction to hearing that, the more likely it is that you need to stay single for a year. I've been single for close to 2 and really have gotten into the energy of like, I'm not even sure I want to ever do that again. Who knows what's on the other side of that for me? But there was a period in which I simply was not well enough to be having a relationship, and I didn't really know it. It is, and this is not about blame, it happens to nearly everybody. And if you believe that you have like all of these exceptions to the rules why it's okay to embark on another relationship almost immediately after ending one, then you are in a repeating cycle. And eventually, sometimes you'll find another empath to be involved with, and all that will happen is that you exclude all others and you become too focused on that person and you lose your identity to your relationship. It will usually, you can still remain in that relationship sometimes as you repair the damage to yourself, but most frequently people are accidentally falling in love with somebody who reminds them very much of the abuser that they are leaving, and they do not realize it until they're a little bit further down the road. The first 6 months of any relationship is about fantasy and projection. It is impossible to truly know somebody within a very short time period. We have to give things the time they take to kind of evolve. You can get a sense of somebody, you can be very energetically connected to them, but you need to get past that honeymoon phase of the first 6 months to truly invest in a relationship. And another hallmark of codependency is overcommitment too quickly. So let's get going on some of these cards and talk about it. Not the right time. Hey, if you are leaving behind a codependent relationship, there's something called the codependent relationship breakup cycle, in which people leave one person for another. If you are trying to leave behind a relationship that has damaged you and you believe yourself to be deeply, deeply in love, do yourself a favor. Give it a nice time period where, like, hey, you'll be there in 6 months if it's real. You'll be there in 12 months if it's real. Take the time to heal yourself so you do not repeat a pattern. And please don't shoot the messenger. It is the way to regain emotional health and true connection. We have remain positive. Listen, it feels horrible. At first, when you leave a codependent relationship, there is something that is like withdrawal, and it absolutely will feel like you're dying. I've gone through this with a bunch of clients. Went through this myself as well. It's completely dysphoric. It does pass. It does pass. If you know what's happening, it's easier to get through it. If you are leaving behind a toxic relationship, know that you will feel almost physically pulled towards that person or towards another relationship. That is not a sign of love. That is a sign of dysfunction. If you are feeling like, I can't stop thinking about this person, I'm fixating on them, I'm watching their social media, I'm trying to find out everything about them, that is not a healthy energy to be in, and your guides are trying to help you understand, step back. It doesn't mean it's not a real connection, it just means that it's not living in a healthy energy yet. Heal yourself and you will get the love that you truly deserve. Improving health, it is important to wait until you're healthier. We have recovery. Please, if you do not repair it, you will repeat it. There is nothing more worthwhile that you can do with your time than recover from an abusive relationship. Spend some time with yourself, knowing that you can meet all of your emotional needs, and you will simply have better relationships with yourself and with others. Make sure that you have passions, pursuits, friendships, and interests. It's very important to have a full identity outside of your relationship. And this has almost nothing to do with abuse within a relationships. It simply takes a lot of pressure off of your partner and off of yourself. It lets a relationship flourish in a healthier and more natural fashion because it isn't somebody's sole focus or the only thing that they have in their life. I also have a year from now. That is, the standard is a year. The standard is a year. And again, if you want to throw things at me for saying that, that really is a sign that you really do need to spend that time alone to heal. I did another video about what loving yourself first really means, and it means you have to love yourself first before you truly have a healthy relationship with another person. It is impossible to give that which you are not giving to yourself as well. If you give to the point of depletion and you don't receive well, or you're trying to earn somebody's love through constant acts of service or making everything about them, know that that is a form of codependency. It does come in varying degrees. Simply make sure that you know your own worth, your own value, and that if anybody mistreats you, please try not to excuse it. Anybody can have a bad moment. It's not about saying you have to be perfect to be with me. But if somebody consistently does not meet your emotional needs, or there are circumstances in their life that would preclude them truly being a healthy partner for you, examine that. It may be a hallmark or red flag of codependency. And then a year from now, romance. Listen, you can date when you're trying to recover from codependency if you want. But again, spend some time with yourself so that you don't end up in a cycle that repeats. And I'm saying this because I was in a 20-year relationship that was very codependent. It was very difficult for me to leave, and it took a long time for me to recover. I would say that I'm only within the last 6 months or so would consider myself recovered. I'm not currently dating. That's partially because it's COVID, but it's also partially because I'm happy by myself. I like my life by myself, and I'm not really sure I have room for anybody else at this particular time. That's a healthy place to be in. That means that if I did meet somebody, or if there was somebody who came into my life that I really wanted to be paired up with, I would be far less likely to sacrifice my autonomy, my independence, or my view of the world as being only complete if that person was in it. It is important to healthy relationships to not have so much pressure put on them that they feel like it is everything to you. So that is part of the reason that withdrawing and saying, I'm just going to spend some time not pursuing another relationship other than with myself, it will help ensure healthier relationships. And by the way, once you have recovered, you always have to be a little vigilant about not being codependent, but it is entirely possible not simply to have relationships, but that person that I was talking about, if you met somebody and you're super duper drawn to them, it is possible it's a real connection. And once you are recovered from that fixated energy of codependency, those feelings will be remaining and you will know that it is true. All right, I have codependency. Addictions are affecting your romantic life. Pay attention to the red flags. here's a couple of signs that you may have been involved in a codependent relationship, or you may be. You're not able, like you took on somebody who's like deeply in debt, has all of these problems, has a laundry list of that's not a good partner, but you did it anyway because you simply really wanted a partner. Having healthy standards for the people that you allow into your life is one of the things that will bring you healthy relationships, which is, again, not to say you should reject or judge everyone who is not perfectly healthy, just rather that should be something that develops over the course of a relationship rather than partners aren't projects. You can't heal or fix people. Codependent people want to, but it's not a good idea. For one thing, if you fix somebody, if you heal all of their wounds, if you help them straighten out their credit, the chances are very, very high they will leave you. They will outgrow you once they have healed. And so that is something else to be aware of. Deception, someone is wearing a false self-mask in this relationship. Deception is, it can be denial. It can be denial. The reason that I'm bringing that out is particularly when it comes to recovering from abusive relationships, we want to be better sooner than we think that we are. If you have not spent a significant chunk of time being single following a destructive relationship, there really aren't exceptions to this rule. You need to try and withdraw and try to spend some time healing and recovering. If you do not repair it, you will repeat it. Heal, or you will continue to have the same relationship over and over again. Lessons in our existence are repeated until we learn that lesson. Every experience brings us an opportunity to learn a lesson. If we don't learn the lesson, we will repeat the experience until such time as we do. So it's a little bit of a lather, rinse, repeat type of thing. And it is also very important to heal yourself rather than looking to somebody else's love to heal you. Forgiving and learning, as you release and heal the past, you experience more love in your present moments, and it's time to take back control of your life with Free Yourself. I got out these cards just kind of as little, almost like flashcards to remind myself of what I need to talk about. Codependency usually forms from childhood trauma. If you can identify the parent or the situation that caused this need to be approved of and validated or taken care of or protected in your childhood, then you can start healing things yourself as you release the pain of the past. Memories from the past should not hurt, and empaths unfortunately have emotional memory. When we think of things, if we have not healed the trauma around them, then the emotion comes back, and that can be being triggered. Narcissists use triggers against their victims, so do sociopaths. That is one of the reasons that, again, taking the time to heal, taking the time to be whole will help protect you, and it will strengthen the quality of your relationships as well. I have love yourself first. Your self-respect makes you more romantically attractive, and release your ex. The time has come to clear your energy. Again, this is a difficult thing to discuss because there is with that, because codependency functions like an addiction, it can influence the cards. It takes over somebody's willpower. When someone is reading you, they're reaching into your personal energy and laying out your future as your energy is indicating it. If you are in an addictive energy with codependency, you have tunnel vision around wanting just one thing. And it doesn't happen with everybody. It really does not. It does not mean that if you've been getting encouraging readings that they're false. Just that if you go to reader after reader after reader and they tell you the exact same thing, that's a flag. That's not supposed to happen. Also, if you're getting reading after reading after reading on the same exact question in short order, that's an indication that you're hyper-focusing. Hyper-focusing is also fixation, compulsion, or addiction. It is important to try and allow yourself to heal. And we can get false returns on tarot cards. I didn't know that for a very long time. It started coming out as I started doing more work with someone I knew to be codependent who was going to multiple readers and getting a return that indicated a very particular set of circumstances that 100% did not turn out to be true. And it's not that person's fault. They were engaged in a repetitive, compulsive OCD. OCD can be caused by trauma, emotional trauma in particular. Obsessive compulsive disorder, you can be obsessive about getting readings and it can start influencing the cards. It doesn't happen often. It does not happen often, but it can happen. So be aware if you have had multiple readings where this is going to happen, but then that date passes, you're 6 months, a year beyond it. It does indicate, first of all, something still may be coming to you, but things are held back from us until such time as we heal as well. It is very important to take the time to heal our energetic and our emotional wounds. There's alignment energies that can, like getting your chakras in alignment is one of the things that will help increase the universal flow. Working on the issues that caused you to look to another person to give you your worth rather than knowing it. That's another hallmark of codependency. Once you get all of these straightened out, you'll have a healthy relationship, you'll be healthier, you'll be happier. I understand that this is probably not the world's most welcome reading. And the whole reason that I'm recording this is I keep telling clients over and over again about the need to heal from codependency. And a lot of them have been abuse victims. If you have been abused, take the time to heal before you embark on your next relationship, so that your next relationship will not be an echo of your former one as you try to address and heal the issues that eventually became so pronounced in that relationship that you were unable to ignore them any longer. That's what that transference energy is about as well. Quite frequently, and I call it a stepping stone relationship, quite frequently I will see people who have left very, very difficult and sometimes extreme circumstances, and their next relationship, they're very convinced that person is very different, and they're almost always just a repeat of the person beforehand if that person has not taken the time to heal, to look within, to try and find out what went wrong. And quite frequently with codependency, one of the hallmarks of it is you stayed past the point that you knew it was a good idea. I did that for like almost 10 years in a 20-year relationship. 10 years in, there was a set of circumstances that made it very, very clear that I should leave. And I didn't believe that I could at that time. My guides kept bringing me more and more opportunities, and I just couldn't. I had lost my identity to my relationship. I'm an incredibly strong-willed person. I'm incredibly resilient, and I've overcome a lot of trauma in my past. As I've actually shared in other circumstances, this is a long list, and I'm fine. Like, don't let this part distress you, but this is part of what caused me to be so codependent despite being a very strong person. I was emotionally abused, I was neglected, I was physically abused, I was sexually abused, and I was also bullied. And so I was also almost completely isolated as a child due to that bullying. I was almost set up from birth to have to overcome codependency and in fact kind of teach myself how to be a person, because on top of everything else I was neglected, so nobody really took the time to raise me in any capacity. I've been a work in progress my entire adult life, and it's been work that's been worthwhile doing. Please know that part. By the way, if you're hearing this and you're distressed and you think that you're being told, I can't have a person, I'm being punished, or there's this thing out there where people stop shaming people for their struggles. Nobody is shaming anybody for their struggles. And it is not the same thing as saying you can't have another human being in your life until such time as you're perfect. But what this particular recording is saying, and what the actual meaning behind, you're being asked to spend some time from yourself, is you're not being put out in timeout. You're not being put in solitary confinement. What you are being told is, if you do not repair it, you will repeat it. And so it is important to withdraw, to really have a better relationship with yourself first, so that you can have better relationships with other people. It's not the same thing as being told you have to be celibate. You can date. You can date multiple people. You can date one person. Do not make a commitment to another person. Don't rely on another person. It's okay to accept support, but you can't need another person to help you solve your problems, to help you work through your feelings. That's our job. That's our job. Once you are fully strong, independent, and healed, you will have better relationships. It will be, if you decide to undertake healing from abuse by taking the prescribed, take some time out. Don't have another relationship until you've healed from that past one. The relationships you have going forward will be much healthier, they will be more fulfilling, and they will serve your needs so much better. It is worth doing. Transference relationships are very compelling, and they can be, they block out, people are convinced that they're real. And it almost always has this, it was insane. Our eyes met and it was like we'd known each other forever. And that is codependency. You can meet a soulmate, you can. But if you're meeting somebody that you think is your twin flame or your soulmate, as you're leaving another relationship, if you haven't actually had time to recover, if you feel dreadful or awful or incomplete, and then you meet another person, you're like, oh, and then it was like, glitter rained down from the sky and the sun came out. Nobody can ever truly make us happy. If you're not happy before you have a relationship, the happiness that you feel will only be temporary, because it is not innate. It is coming from your response to another person. Anyone who can bring us happiness can take it away. And codependency, unfortunately, usually there is somebody who is an abuser and somebody who, they can be co-combative, but they're usually the victim. Quite frequently, they will accept worse and worse treatment because they can't envision a world in which that other person is not the focus of their attention. The whole point of remaining by yourself until such time as you feel kind of good and you're like, hey, no, this is good. I eat whatever I want, I get up when I want, I do what I want. Until such time as you're enjoying your single existence, chances are that nobody ever completes us. We are complete, and then somebody comes and shares in our life. They're never making our happiness, they are adding to it. Nobody ever truly makes us happy. We respond to another person with our own happiness. It is so worthwhile to take the time to heal, to be whole, and to make sure that you would be perfectly happy no matter who walks in or out of that door eventually. Nobody, if you've had a breakup and it laid you completely low, that is one of the signs that maybe you're a little overinvested in a relationship. And I'm not talking about, hey, if you were married for 15, 20, 25 years and that ended, you're like, it should knock you a little bit down. It takes a while. That's grieving, that's loss, and there's recovery. After almost all breakups of any relationship of any duration, a really, really good idea is to look at a year being single to kind of put your own personal house back together. Okay, I'm sure this is going to be one of the least popular tarot talks out there. Fixation, codependency, compulsiveness around the need for a relationship, or I just have to know, am I going to have this person? Am I going to have that person? Where's my person? These are all signs that you still have some healing to do, and it does not mean you're going to be alone, and nobody is judging you and nobody is punishing you. If you're being held back from a relationship, it is likely that your guides love you very, 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 very much indeed, and they want to save you from a punishing cycle. I hope that this, who knows what my likes are going to look like on this. If I'm angering you, please understand, I'm not trying to. You deserve real love, and codependency is not real love. It wears the mask of it, but it's not real love. Real love is not punishing or diminishing or depleting or unkind on any regular basis. And codependency is one of the most destructive relationship dynamics that there is. It takes away a person's feeling of personal power and of the rightness of their own unique and individual power. Know who you are and know your own worth. See yourself as lovable. See yourself as worthy of good treatment. And if you are getting, again, tarot card reading after tarot card reading to try and reaffirm a connection to another person, and that person is not present in your life, understand that may in fact be a false positive. That's not a guarantee, But if you're wondering, it's like, I keep getting this, we're right on the verge, we're right on the brink, and yet it never seems to happen. That is one of the red flags around your codependency may be influencing the returns that you're getting, particularly in the pick a card presentations, simply because we are reading an energy signature with our third eye when we're picking piles. Okay, like I said, I know this isn't going to be a super popular one, but I think it's a really necessary one. You deserve healthy love. You deserve healthy love, and you can have companionship. Just try not to have a committed relationship with anybody but yourself until such time as you are healed. If you have been involved with a narcissist or a sociopath or just a garden variety emotional abuser, please take the time to recover. Please, you deserve to be well, and you deserve to be loved. Take care, be well. I'll see you next time.